Wallabies depth chart 2024, guys. It's been a hell of a year for Test rugby, particularly for the Wallabies. 13 tests across 3 continents, ranging all the way back from July. There was tests against Wales and Georgia, and all the way up now until the finishing game in Ireland, which was the last day of November slash the first day of December for us here in the early hours of the morning in Australia. So, who are the standouts? Well, I think it's clear that we see that Joe Schmidt has now found his core group of players, his nucleus for his side moving forward. And then we also see the bench taking shape as well. We saw that in the Ireland test, we saw that in the England test, and then against Wales as well, a little bit less so. And that was tested against Scotland. And that's why it's important to talk about depth, because I do believe that that is a big reason why the score blew out to that extent and why we lost that game in the fashion that we did. But we're more into that a little bit later. But we'll also go through the starters, we'll go through the bench, and who are the important third and fourth string Wallabies in each position, and where can there be some room for manoeuvring? Where can players in Super Rugby have the stellar season, have breakout seasons, and then also promote themselves to be able to play for the Wallabies in 2025? Whether that's for the Lions or not remains to be seen. It just depending on how good their form is, really. But fingers crossed that we can find some of those gems, some of those diamonds in the 2025 Super Rugby season, which is only just around the corner. They've moved forward the Super Rugby season a couple of weeks to make way for the Lions tour there in July, starting on July 19th, by the way. And that means that we've only got a very short run after Christmas and New Year's into Super Rugby. I believe it starts the weekend of the 14th of February. So we've got Jan, silly season, and then straight into February Super Rugby. Now bringing it back to the Wallabies' depth to see who can really explode and stamp their mark in Super Rugby. Without further ado, let's go through the starting 15 that has been most consistently picked by Joe Schmidt, as well as a couple of tweaks that I've made, and I will give you the reasons for those in a second. So I'll whack it up there. There it is. Then it's got Bell, Fassler, Tupou, Frost, Skelton, Valentini, McWright, Wilson, Gordon, Lolaseo, Dangunu, Paisami, Ikitau, Kellaway, and Tom Wright at fullback. Now, you might be wondering about why some of those names are there. So Will Skelton didn't play the majority of minutes. Well, I think his impact, especially in the Wales game and even the first half of the very first half of that first half against Scotland, were clear for all to see. He was absolutely stellar, physical in the maul, whether it's attack or defense. He just really knew how to ramp that up and drive home that set piece. And he was probably the reason why Matt Fessler scored that hat trick in the Wales test. And then you're looking at someone like Paisami and Daugunu. So Paisami at 12, he's played the bulk of the minutes in that 12 jersey. And if it wasn't for injury, he probably would have gotten some more game time on the end of year tour in the Northern Hemisphere. So he gets that 12 spot. It doesn't necessarily mean that I think that he'll be there for the start of the Lions test next July, which is July 19th, by the way. But he's definitely the player that played the most minutes in that jersey, and so he gets that spot. But we'll go into the bench and then the third and fourth string center options a little bit later. And then Dangunu, likewise, if he hadn't injured, he got a pretty serious injury to one of his lower legs. And it's just, if he hadn't gotten that injury, he probably would have played bigger minutes for the Wallabies. So that's why he's gotten the number 11 jersey. But we'll go through the options and the machinations of where different players will play and how that'll affect the squad and the game day squad potentially. So that's the starting side. Let me know in the comments below what you think about that starting side. Is that the best starting side that we have based on minutes, or is there a couple of tweaks that we've made? And those tweaks will probably come now as we reveal the bench spot. So there we go. There's the bench. So we have no one at loosehead prop, but we'll get into that in a second. We've got Brandon Paenga-Amosa, clearly the bench hooker, even though Josh Nasser did share the big minutes there. I think it's clear now the fact that Josh Nasser played on the Australia 15s tour, Australia A, and didn't play with the Wallabies proper. I think that says quite a little bit about where Schmidt sees Brandon Paenga-Amosa and Josh Nasser's form and gameplay style and what they can bring to the Wallabies, respectively. Then you've got Alan Alatoa. Williams is a bit of a harsh call because he was amazing. Definitely the rookie of the year for the Wallabies. He stood up and took the next step to international test rugby with flying colours. He's part of the game day 23 every day of the week based on form right now. Whether you see him as a a loose head lock wearing that number 4 jersey, whether you see him as a tight head lock partnering Frost, that's give or take. But I think that if Will Skelton is in that game day team, Will Skelton starts in that number 5 jersey just based on impact. I don't necessarily think that's the best combo, but that based on impact, I think Skelton starts there. Williams is a little bit lighter, and he can definitely play in that loose head lock position as well as the tight head lock. We've seen that he has the grunt to be able to play in that position. Conversely, though, Salakai Loto is a bulkier, more experienced, and bigger second row, which probably makes sense to put him there. And if you could change both locks, Frost for Williams, Skelton for Salakai Loto, I think you'd be pretty happy if you'd put them in there like that. Then number 6, Liam Wright, although he only played one game and not even the full game at that, he was still named the captain and his of the Wallabies in his first Test match. And had it not been for that dreadful injury that ruined his entire Wallabies, his shoulder or bicep injury, ruined his entire Wallabies season, he would have played several minutes and a lot of big minutes. He is a great driver of the line out. He's a good line out operator. His clean and carry was second to none of the number 6s, and I think most of the back row in Super Rugby Pacific. His ruck clearances numbers were out of this world, and he is also becoming a really good leader. So I think that if Liam Wright can get back to full health, I think we'll see a really, really improved and impressive Liam Wright in the 6th jersey. And then down the track, you've got Tizano following on from Fraser McWright. Sorry, that's a no-brainer. They're the only 2 open sides that really played some big minutes. You've got Reimer in there as well, but I don't think that Schmidt nor that the public are convinced about Reimer's form there in the number 7 jersey for his few couple of appearances. So that remains to be seen, and that remains open, really, rather, and we'll have a look at that when it comes to the 3rd and 4th string column. The next is Valentini for the number 8. I know that we've placed Valentini number 6, but Valentini can also play number 8, and if he's not displaced, if Liam Wright is picked in the number 6 jersey, then perhaps the balance of the Wallabies back row can be balanced with Valentini is such a big, important ball runner being shifted back to number 8. So that's why he's been put there. And the back row is a little bit one of those situations, as is wing, and we'll get to in a second, where the depth isn't necessarily 3 deep at each position, although that would be nice. No real team runs that kind of way. It's more about where can players complement each other and what's the best chemistry. Then let's head to number 9. You've got McDermott. I think he's been clear starter. I know that he hasn't been the first pick any of the weeks, really, except for I think it may have been Georgia, but that still shows that he's the second pick every day, and that Nick White and Jake Gordon have shared those first duties. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're first and second. So I think McDermott is that clear number 2 or bench halfback for the Wallabies. And then the number 10, Ben Donaldson, Tom Leinart, Tane Edmond, all Wallabies now, but it is not clear which of them really is ready to take the reins should Lolosio get injured, or if Schmidt wants to turn to someone to manage minutes. It really is so unclear who the next best fly half is in Australia. So more on that in a second, but you can see why there's question marks there. Now, the blindside winger position, Peach probably gives the same amount of physicality and on-ball presence that someone like Dangunu does. He also gives a bit of punch to a Wallabies backline, which at times has lacked physicality and lacked physical presence. So Peach gets that spot. Number 12, Karevi, that's his position. He's the biggest of the centre options or players that have played this year for Australia, and he is that by about 10 kilos, so he's quite a lot bigger. We can't really see what his form is because he played a decent 40 minutes until he was carded in the 41st minute for a high shot shoulder to the head of Welsh back rower Jack Morgan. So it's a real shame, and whether that dictates how Schmidt sees him moving forward will be really interesting, because who the other options are means that the back line, like we saw in the end of year tour with Ikitau going to 12 and Suoli going to 13, means a little bit of a reshuffle in the centres. Then we're moving on to number 13. I think it's quite clear that if Ikitau's not there, Suoli is an elite operator, or an elite physical presence who can manage the physical battle as well as the speed of the game at 13. We tried Josh Fluke there. Paisami can play there, but I think that it's pretty clear that Suoli shades both of those players in the 13 jersey. Maybe Paisami could do a job there if needed, but it would feel as a bit of a waste of his particular talents as well as Joseph Suoli's physical profile if Paisami was shifted to the 13 jersey and Joseph Akuso Suoli shifted somewhere else or even out of the starting 15. So Suoli gets that 13 jersey. Dangunu again on the open side if Kellaway is not there. So who is the reserve fullback? So a lot of people would think that the fight or the race has been between Andrew Kellaway and Tom Wright, and Tom Wright has so clearly won that, even though Andrew Kellaway has solidified his position in the 14 jersey. But who is actually the next best fullback? And I actually believe that Max Jorgensen is would probably be better on the international test stage if he was given the freedom and the space that fullback affords a player, because his ability to run and keep his speed and velocity on a curved line, whether that's an outline or an inline or zigzagging between players, is second to none, really. His ability to stay balanced and to be able to maintain speed is incredible. So maybe on the wing is he's just not able to be able to have that open field and be able to pick and choose where his seams are. He's pretty limited with just being able to either go and burn someone down the wing, which he can, which he did for that try against Twickenham. Awesome moment. But I think he's also one of the better fullback runners that we have in the game, very similar to Wright. So I think Jorgensen actually snaps that spot in the 15 jersey. So put that in the bench spot or the second best fullback option that we have. Then we come to third and fourth string, and this is where the depth really starts to get challenging for the Wallabies. There's a lot of question marks, as you can see there. Some of them are warranted, some of them are not. I think that if you look at the prop stocks, then you've got Kylea slash Slipper. Either of those can do the job of a starter, of a bench spot or a starter. But I really do think someone needs of those two needs to step up in 2025 Super Rugby Pacific, or risk someone like Blake Shaw, Alex Hodgman. Then you've also got Marley Pierce, although I think he's a couple of years away. But even the Waratahs, Tom Lambert, who Angus Bell and Isaac Aida Kalia will be competing fiercely against for minutes, and that's a blessing that Dan Palmer and Dan McKellar have at the Waratahs. But that is really interesting. Who is going to rise? Who's going to be the cream that rises to the top for the Waratahs at the loose head prop behind Angus Bell? Because Angus Bell is currently in a league of his own. The third slash fourth string hooker, where does that fall? Look, behind Fassler and BPA, Josh Nasser has the bulk of the minutes. I'm pretty sure that someone like Lachlan Lonergan or Dave Parecki, should they be able to stay fit this year, they have the opportunity to truly put in a really good shift and also become part of that that squad for the Lions. So keep an eye out for that. Third string tight end prop. Bottom line, Zane Nongo is the only real one that got any real minutes there. Unconvinced at the moment. Tom Robertson, he came in but then was injured and had to leave. So it really is an open book. Any tight head prop throughout Super Rugby Pacific can put their name forward and be that third tight head prop, whether it's a swing prop like someone who can play both sides, like Robinson, who comes in as to be able to not take as many positions on squad spots in the propping stocks and then use that elsewhere, remains to be seen. And then you've got the second row. I don't think the second row is a big of an issue because you've got Frost Williams and Salakai Loto, and domestically you've got Skeleton to be able to come. There is still a spot for someone to grab that there, whether it's Darcy Swain, Caden Neville, Josh Canham, Angus Blythe was part of the equation, and then also Ryan Smith. You've got some young bucks around the place, but they're the main contenders. I think that they're racing for that spot, and it'll be really interesting to see who rises to the top for that. Number 6 is covered with Gleason and Uru. They're really impressive. If either of those has a really solid season, they're straight in there. They've got the minutes under their belts. Number 10, you've got Liner, Donaldson, Edmed, Lawson Crichton, Harry McLaughlin Phillips. Although I think that really it is a race between Tane Edmed and Ben Donaldson, and maybe a little bit of pressure of Lawson Crichton. They're all a little bit older than the rest, and someone like Jack Debrasini is the oldest of them all, but I can't see him becoming part of the equation at this late stage in his career, and then also the fact that he wasn't called on for Australia 15 this year. So, take that with what you will. Let me know what you think in the comments below about who should be the reserve 10. I'd love to hear from you. Then finally, you've got Jorgensen there in the 11 jersey. He did a great job. He's just not quite as physical as Danguna and Peach. It definitely improved throughout the November series. It was good to see that he put a little bit of punch in his defense. I just think that in attack, he can probably afford to just be a little bit stronger through the contact, and the off season will help with that. He'll put on a couple of kegs and hopefully keep all of his speed, because it is electric when he does get his hands on his hands on the ball in space. Number 12, Ikitau probably is in that third bracket / second bracket about who's the best to play number 12. You've got Feketi, David Feluai, Isaac Henry. Who else from the sides? Hamish Stewart, Bailey Consul. You've got lots of options, but it looks like it's pretty log jammed at the moment, especially with the form of Paisami and Suali'i, as well as Karevi and Suali'i. Same for the 13 jumper, but I also think that Harry Potter's versatility, his ability to play 12 all the way out to 15, really puts him in good stead to be able to be that sort of player that comes into the 13 jersey. He probably should have gone in there when everything went awry in the Scotland game. They shifted Kellaway in instead. Potter's probably better place to play there to keep Kellaway on the wing, but hindsight's 2020, so do that with what you will. But who do you guys think that should, make up the starting 15, the bench spots? Who wears that 23 jersey? And, let's get a discussion going in the comments below. Where do these players in third and fourth string fall on your chart? Where do you think that the opportunities are for players to have a great season in Super Rugby Pacific 2025, and then to carry that form and to be picked by Joe Schmidt over some players that have already played this year? It's so exciting. And I know that we have a run into Christmas now, but after that, it's going to be Super Rugby, Super Rugby, Super Rugby, just after these Perth Sevens there, which is also going to be cracker. So, as always, please, guys, like, subscribe, share it with a rugby lover, and hopefully we can grow the channel and grow the game. I want to hear your perspectives on the starting 15 and all the rest of the selections that I've made in the comments below. And as always, guys, this is Off the Ruck, your weekly rugby breakdown with me, John Ferguson, and I hope to catch you guys on the next one. Cheers, guys.